Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Devil May Cry 4 SSS rank Dante Must Die walkthrough. This is mission 7, and we're moving into the jungle area, and we're going to be taking on the, is it Echidna, the serpent plant lady, who, back in the day, I had a really fun loop for her, which I showcased on my Devil May Cry videos are coming, way back when. Back when I was playing the high definition collection and I was getting back into Devil May Cries, and I was going to do a Devil May Cry 4 guide. Which I just never did. But back then, I was still a little bit more memorable about the game, so I could do the loop, and then when it came to this, I couldn't remember it, and because I was making a walkthrough, I'm always conflicted when it comes to looking things up, because I don't want to be subconsciously influenced by other players. And sometimes it happens all the time, you know, sometimes you'll watch something, you'll see something great, and you'll be like, oh, I'm going to try that next time I play. Which is how I found the loop, but it's one of those things where when I'm making a guide, I always feel like I should stick with it and do my own thing before I look. Like, I'm under no illusion that the techniques that I use and the tactics that I find, and I'm going to use the word find with air quotes, might have already been discovered, already been mastered and done better. You know, I'm more than aware of stuff like that, but there's a lot of people who like to say you copy other people's tactics, which I think on a lot of games, because they're so community driven, there's just tactics that work better than others, and once you know of them, it's difficult to do other things. You know, it's just the way games work, and I use a strategy in this that is an improvement on one of my own that I saw on a video by the Godfather Dictator. And I watched it a couple... When did it... I can't remember when he published it. I think it was a couple of months back. It was a live commentated, no damage, best rank of this game. And it's taking on the dogs as Dante. He uses the Pandora's box, and he uses it in a way that I'd never thought to use it. My previous strategy was to circle strafe, keeping them off camera, shooting them with the shotgun. And it'd take about 3 or 4 minutes. It wasn't very safe, and it was boring to watch. And his strategy is safe and not very interesting to watch, but it gets you through it much quicker than mine. And I just thought it was really interesting and really cool that he found it. And when we get to that video, I'm going to say on that video, this is a strategy I saw by this dude, who's an awesome player, and I'm going to be using it because it's fucking cool. And it stops one of the shittest fights on the game. It makes it completely trivial. And that's how that works. But at the same time, like when you look back and you look into stuff and you look at other people's walkthroughs, sometimes it's kind of scary what you find, because some people are really good at certain games. You know, Devil May Cry 4 now has been out. How long has this game been out? Since 2008 or something? It's been out a long time now. So people have found a lot of crazy stuff. You know, back in the day, I was finding crazy stuff. Sure, it wasn't the stuff that you see now, because the game's completely moved on since when I played it, but it was still pretty damn interesting. And my biggest fear is if you look into it, you know, you want to do it, and then it kind of permeates the entire walkthrough then, because it's not me, you know, coming up with on-the-fly strategies or using strategies I used to use. It's me, you know, looking for the best strategies and then just implementing them. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's the type of guide you're trying to make. But I said from the beginning that this was meant to be the average Joe, you know, the guy who picked up Devil May Cry 4 because it was cheap and kind of liked it, and he's an achievement whore or a trophy whore or whatever, even though somebody told me I don't think trophies existed when this came out, so you can't do that on PlayStation, which is bullshit, but whatever. You know, and they want to get those elusive, really difficult rank achievements, so it's meant to reflect those kind of players, rather than me, you know, show you these crazy masterful strategies that are arguably the best way of killing stuff. And there's going to be some of that, but it's going to be old strategies from way back when, the good old distorted real impacts as Dante, which do ridiculous amounts of damage for no other reason than that move is insanely powerful. And a couple of people have left comments on the video calling it a glitch. It's not a glitch, guys. It existed in Devil May Cry 3. I look at it like this. They knew about it, they could easily fix it if they didn't think it was desirable, and they left it in. So it is a technique, it's a mechanic, it's just the way the game evolved, the way the meta works. Just like Street Fighter, I'll always draw it back to Street Fighter, because the combos in Street Fighter were unintentional. They were a side effect of the way the mechanics worked, and they went on to become the most interesting part of that game and revolutionise traditional fighting games. And it's the same in some ways with things like jump cancelling and things like distorted attacks, because what some people don't realise is you can distort everything, pretty much. And I'm going to talk about distorting when we play as Dante, because there's no point really talking about it as Nero as much. And you might be able to distort attacks with Nero, but I use his Devil Trigger more as kind of a get-out-of-jail move than anything else. And I really miss it when I play as Dante, because Dante feels really unsafe in comparison. Because Nero, like, I've said this earlier, I think this game should have been completely designed around Nero. I think they should have full-on done a Metal Gear Solid 2 and just been like, fuck Dante. Dante can be in the cutscenes looking all suave, and then maybe unlock him at the end, and then get to play through the full game as him. You know, you don't even have to change the cutscenes or anything. It doesn't have to make sense. It's just like Virgil from Devil May Cry 3's Special Edition. Just throw him in there. Just shoehorn him in. And how cool would that have been? Playing as Dante against Credo and doing all the early levels as Dante. And sure, they weren't designed for him, but you just put those little jump pads in that are everywhere else in the game that are just fucking jump the shark on level design. You know, it could have been so simpler. And that way, we would have had a full experience as this character. And I really like Nero, I do. At the time, was I disappointed when it came out? Hell yes I was, because I was a Dante player. I wanted to play as Dante. But, you know, as I played for more and as I got used to Nero, Nero makes the game feel like a completely different kind of game. And I think that's what Devil May Cry 4 really needed. They needed it to be something, you know, different. Because 3 perfected it. It did. I mean, I still think 1's the best. I always will, because 1 is a very special game for me. But I think 3 took the formula of what these games do and just, you know, it Sistine Chapel'd it. It just made this thing, this I don't even know what to call it, this presence. It's a masterpiece. It's an absolute masterpiece of just insanity, because it's everything that people wanted from a Devil May Cry. The last game was easier, let's make it stupid fucking hard. The last game had no combos and no moves and shit weapons and shit this and shit that and too many guns and all this other nonsense. You know, let's fix that. They truly did. They made, arguably, the best action game ever made for stylish action and combo-driven gameplay. And I think it's unmatched to this day for what it does well. You know, I personally prefer Bayonetta. I'm a massive Bayonetta fan. I think the combat system on Bayonetta is the best that's ever been built. But I still think that for what Devil May Cry 3 does, it is unmatched by anything else. Like, look at Ninja Gaiden 2. Ninja Gaiden 2 has a mechanic where any enemy can be dismembered off of one attack if you get a critical on it. And what it makes is it makes enemies that are super aggressive, super damaging, super dangerous, but super vulnerable to being killed. So it evens the playing field by they're fucking lethal, but so are you. And I think that system is the best example of that kind of system. I have no idea why nobody copied that system, but they should have, because it's brilliant. And unfortunately, if you want to play that, you only have that one game, because Sigma 2, which I haven't played, so I probably shouldn't speak too much about, but from what I've seen, you don't take limbs off anything. They take like 6 Azuna drops before their head goes. Like, what the fuck is that about? You know, the fun of that second game was just that feeling of a group of dudes in front of you and just cleaving through them. And knowing you had that potential, but knowing at the same time, if it didn't work, you had to get out of there or they were going to do the same to you. And you know, all these action titles, these brawlers, whatever you want to call them, character-driven action games is what I call them. You know, they all do something differently and something well. And then Devil May Cry 4 does this weird thing of, it has this Nero campaign, where Nero is significantly simpler than Dante ever was, but really powerful, because he has this ability to grab enemies, and he has this ability to... It's a win button. You know, you can't call it anything else. An enemy's close to you, you grab it, it's fucked. You know, you've got it. There's nothing it can do. You've just got you, shitting on your chest, see you later, friend. Nothing. Unless it's this. Oh. Just... Oh. I hate Chimeran enemies. I hate every single one of them. The Chimera Scarecrows, the Chimera Assaults, all of them I'm making a series, and I keep talking about it, and I haven't shared it yet, but I will, where I do something called Backseat Game Dev. That's what it's called. Catchy title, I know. And I go over how I would change a game if I could do anything I wanted with it. Anything at all. And I'm telling you right now, folks, if I cover this game, or if it gets requested, because how it's going to work is, I'm going to do one, and in the comments I'm going to ask people to request one that I do. And how it's going to work is, it's going to be a back and forth of, I'm going to tell you what I would change, and then I want to hear what you would change. And hopefully we can get like a discussion going, and we can all come together. And this is an amazing fail coming up here, folks, where I try to attack the pods, but Nero locks onto the boss, so I miss them and nearly get hit. And then my pad has a bad analog, so when I'm trying to run away, I do this stylish walk, which is incredibly tedious. And then that happens, which I thought was quite funny. And then this happens, and it just gets worse. Do not stand around breaking things, because the boss will do it for you. Lesson learned. I completely forgot about that. I was trying to get this on my first attempt, which I did, even though, you know, it's full of fails and things. But once again, just proves, you know, you don't have to be perfect to get these ranks. But back to what I was saying anyhow. If I did a backseat dev for this game, the very first thing I would change is I would remove that passive, defensive, flaily bullshit nonsense move that that enemy has that kills the flow of this game. Devil May Cry's have always been the same. They're about momentum. They're about capitalizing on an enemy's weakness, launching said enemy, and then juggling its tits off. And those things stop every single attempt of enjoyable combat, because they have this ability to just passively attack, even during stunned states, and it's horrible. And if it was like this, where, if you don't know how this works, I should probably explain. Did you notice that thing that I picked up that looked a little bit like a testicle with legs? A really hairy testicle, like a very manly sailor-esque dude. They hatch, and then they walk around passively, and then they spot an enemy. And they run towards the enemy, they jump on it, and then they fuse together, you know, fusion ha, all that good stuff. And then they become that, what that thing is there. Which I'm now using spacing techniques to kill, because I hate them. And at that point, if they change, like these fellas have, it means you've failed, in some ways, unless they were already that way, because in certain circumstances, you can kill the parasite before it merges with its new host. And if every fight was like that, where you could get rid of those little shitty things, and then fight the scarecrows or the assaults, then I think it would be really good. But it's not. There are canned fights where it's just those enemies, and there's one as Dante in, is it mission 16, mission 15? It's the hardest fight on the game for me, because there are times when I'll do it, I'll take no damage. There's times when I'll do it, they'll kill me in a second, and I don't know why. It's just one of those really bad fights for me, and I hate them. I absolutely hate them. But this is Echidna. This is the boss that I used to know how to do a loop on her. And the loop is, you need to stun her first. So, wherever the spiky things come up from, you want to be as far away from them as you can. But you also want to try and get in range with the boss, unless you want it to take longer than it does. A lot of people jump up and shoot, is a technique you'll see a lot of, but I'm too lazy half the time, so I just take the hit. But if you can stun her by hitting her face off a lot, she'll go into a dazed state. And in the dazed state, I think what the loop was, check my video if you want the proper one, because I do it in that. She shakes her head, and I believe as she shakes her head, you can buster her, because she's just coming out of the animation where you can actually grab her and do that fancy move, and she's coming back into just being a target again. You know, the detection's turned off. And if you buster her at the right time, it kind of knocks her back, instead of allowing her to recover, and then you can put her back in a stunned state, and you can loop it and keep doing it. And when I saw it, I was blown away, so the first thing I did is I booted the game, and I learnt how to do it. Unfortunately, I have now forgot how to do it, so this is just going to be, you know, your standard sloppy Echidna fight, and it just is what it is, you know. There's a part of me that feels embarrassed because I know how good I used to be at this game, but at the same time, I wasn't enjoying it when I was playing it, and I don't want to force myself to do this channel. You know, this channel has always been about fun for me. It's always been about doing the things I enjoy, and a lot of people really wanted this game, so I gave it them. In spite of the fact that I just wasn't feeling it. And I'm not asking for sympathy or anything, guys. You know, I'm playing games. Games are fun. Even when I'm not feeling it, I'm still having fun, because it's a fantastic game. But I could have easily stopped doing it and done other things. Like, I still have the Wonderful 101 that I'm covering, and I love that game right now. I'm so deep in that game, it's unbelievable, but I'm also really busy, which is... Now that's a pain in the ass. You see what happened then? I was trying to grab the little dude, and I locked onto the boss instead, because the lock-on this game is fucking horrible. It's the worst lock-on on the planet ever. Which is obviously not true, but... You know, if I'd have not said that it's not true, there's people who would have argued and defended the lock-on in this game because they didn't realise I was joking. I get that a lot. And I assume it's new people who don't understand my sense of humour. But sometimes it's people who do, who've been here a long time, and they still think it's dead serious. Like, I made a Dark Souls video where I said, we all had a meeting, every single Dark Souls player on the planet, and they all agreed I was the best player. And because I said it so seriously, there's a lot of people that didn't realise I was taking the piss. And there were a lot of people saying that, you know, I should probably check my ego and things. It's like, really? Really? How long have you been watching this video? How long have you been watching my channel? And you still think that anything that comes out of my mouth is even remotely sensible? Oh. But that was Chapter 7, guys. Or Mission 7. And let's have a look at the requirements. How did we do? I'm happy to say that this was, I think, a first attempt. Yeah, there we go. So not too bad. As long as you get around 9,000 stylish points, you should be fine. You know, 15 minutes is more than enough time to do that level. And that's the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching, and you take care now.